Hey everybody, I wanted to come on here and share a book with each and every one of you as leaders. And I am specifically doing it for my team because I want to give an opportunity to have where you get these small nuggets of chapters from Leadership 101 by John Maxwell. And I hope that each of you just feels empowered. You feel more like, hey, it doesn't take this amazing person. It takes the discipline to use your gifts and to be somebody that you want to be and to be purposeful about that. I think that's what I've learned over this last year and a half, being purposeful about your health, about leading others, all that. So with that, I'm going to start chapter 1. I'm going to do 2 chapters of Leadership 101 by John Maxwell. So here we go. I often open my leadership conferences by explaining what I call the law of the lid because it helps people understand the value of leadership. If you can get a handle on this principle, you will see the incredible impact of leadership on every aspect of life. So here it is. Okay, pay attention. Leadership ability is the lid that determines a person's level of effectiveness. The lower an individual's ability to lead, the lower the lid on his potential. The higher the leadership, the greater the effectiveness. To give you an example, if your leadership rates an 8, then your effectiveness can never be greater than a 7. If your leadership is only a 4, then your effectiveness will no higher than a 3. Your leadership ability, for better or for worse, always determines your effectiveness and the potential impact on your organization. Let me tell you a story that illustrates the law of the lid. In 1930, 2 young brothers named Dick and Maurice moved from New Hampshire to California in search of the American dream. They had just gotten out of high school and they saw few opportunities back home, so they headed straight for Hollywood, where they eventually found jobs on a movie studio set. After a while, their entrepreneurial spirit and interest in the entertainment industry prompted them to open a theater in Glendale, a town about 5 miles northeast of Hollywood. But despite all their efforts, the brothers just couldn't make the business profitable, so they looked for a better business opportunity. In 1937, the brothers opened a small drive-in restaurant in Pasadena, located just east of Glendale. As people in Southern California became more dependent on their cars in the 30s, drive-in restaurants sprang up everywhere. Customers would drive into a parking lot around a small restaurant, place their orders with car hops, and receive their food on trays right in their cars. The food was served on china plates, complete with glassware and metal utensils. Dick and Maurice's tiny drive-in restaurant was a great success. And in 1940, they moved the operation to San Bernardino, a working-class boomtown 50 miles east of Los Angeles. They built a larger facility and expanded their menu from hot dogs, fries, and shakes to include barbecue beef, and their menu from hot dogs, fries, and pork sandwiches, hamburgers, and other items. Their business exploded. Annual sales reached 200,000, and the brothers found themselves splitting 50,000 in profits every year, a sum that put them in the town's financial elite. In 1948, their intuition told them that times were changing, so they made modifications to their restaurant business. They eliminated the car hops and started serving only walk-up customers. They reduced their menu and and focused on selling hamburgers. They eliminated the plates, the glassware, and metal utensils, switching to paper products instead. They reduced their cost and the prices they charged customers. They also created what they called the speedy service system. Their kitchen became like an assembly line where each person focused on service with speed. Their goal was to fill each customer's order in 30 seconds or less, and they succeeded. By the mid 1950s, annual revenue hit 350,000, and by then Dick and Maurice split net profits about $100,000 each year. So just remember, this is the 1950s. Who were these brothers? On the front of their small restaurant hung a neon sign that simply said McDonald's hamburgers. Dick and Maurice McDonald had hit the great American jackpot. And the rest, as they say, is history, right? Wrong. The McDonald's never went any further because their weak leadership put a lid on their abilities to succeed. It's true that the McDonald brothers were financially secure. Theirs was one of the most profitable restaurant enterprises in the country, and their genius was in customer service and kitchen organization, which led to a new system of food and beverage service. In fact, their talent was so widely known in food service circles that people from all over the country wanted to learn more about their methods. At one point, they received as many as 300 calls and letters every month. That led them to the idea of marketing the McDonald's concept. The idea of franchising restaurants had been around for several decades. To the McDonald brothers, it looked like a way to make money without having to open another restaurant themselves. In 1952, they tried it, but their effort was a dismal failure. The reason was simple: they lacked the leadership necessary to make it effective. Dick and Maurice were good restaurant owners. They understood how to run a business, make their system efficient, cut costs, and increase profits. They were efficient managers, but they were not leaders. Their thinking patterns clamped a lid on what they could do and become. At the height of their success, Dick and Maurice found themselves smack dab against the law of the lid. In 1953, the brothers hooked up with a man named Ray Kroc. So let me just pause right there. In Augusta, we have the Kroc Center. Ray Kroc and his wife are the ones that eventually purchase McDonald's. Okay, so 1954, the brothers hooked up with a man named Ray Kroc, who was a leader. Kroc had been running a small company he founded, which sold machines for making milkshakes. McDonald's was one of his best customers, and as soon as he visited the store, he had a vision for its potential. In his mind, he could see the restaurant going nationwide in hundreds of markets. He soon struck a deal with Dick and Maurice in 1955. He formed McDonald's System, Inc., later called the McDonald's Corporation. Kroc immediately bought the rights to a franchise so that he could use it as a model and a prototype to sell other franchises. Then he began to assemble a team and build an organization to make McDonald's a nationwide entity. In the early years, Kroc sacrificed a lot. Though he was in his mid-50s, he worked long hours just as he had when he first got started in business 30 years earlier. He eliminated many frills at home. So he got rid of his country club membership, which he said later that it added 10 strokes to his golf game. During his first 8 years with McDonald's, he took no salary. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. His first 8 years of business, he took no salary. He also personally borrowed money from the bank and against his life insurance to help cover the salaries of a few. So I want to pause right there. For every person that is listening to this that obviously that I love is one of my leaders on my team, you have to invest in sacrificing personal things that you would naturally spend your time in to be the gain for your future. So he um, got rid of his country club membership. Obviously, he's not playing golf, so he gets worse at golf. He takes no salary, so obviously finances look a little tight. And he even pours into other people financially by giving and giving them perks of obviously money, but that can be many different things. So I just wanted to pause right there. Okay. um, his sacrifice and his leadership paid off. In 1961, for the sum of $2.7 million, Kroc bought the exclusive rights to McDonald's from the brothers, and he proceeded to turn it into an American institution and global entity. The lid in his life and leadership of Ray Kroc was obviously much higher than that of his predecessors. In the years that Dick and Maurice McDonald had attempted to franchise their food service system, they managed to sell the concept to just 15 buyers, only 10 of whom actually open restaurants. On the other hand, the leadership lid in Ray Kroc's life was sky high. Between 1955 and 1959, Kroc succeeded in opening 100 restaurants. 4 years after that, there were 500 McDonald's. Today, the company has opened more than 21,000 restaurants in no fewer than 100 countries. Leadership ability, or more specifically, the lack of leadership ability, was the lid on the McDonald's brothers' effectiveness. I believe that success is within the reach of just about everyone. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. I believe that success is within the reach of just about everyone. But I also believe that personal success without leadership ability brings only limited effectiveness. A person's impact is only a fraction of what it could be with a good leadership. The higher you want to climb, the more you need leadership. The greater the impact you want to make, the greater your influence needs to be. Okay, I'm going to pause right there. So, no matter in your household, with co leading with your spouse, in your household, in your job, in your church, no matter what, um, the higher you want to be as far as your dreams and aspirations and the things you want to see in life, the more you need leadership. The greater the impact you want to make, the greater your influence needs to be. Whatever you accomplish is restricted by your ability to lead others. Okay, again, whatever you will accomplish is restricted by your ability to lead others. Let me give you a picture of what it means. Let's say when it comes to success, you're an 8 on a scale from 1 to 10. That's pretty good. I think it would be safe to say that the McDonald brothers were in that range. But let's also say that your leadership ability is only a 1. Your level of effectiveness would look like this. And I'll just kind of zoom in. I don't know if y'all are going to be able to see this at all. No, let's see. Let me see, guys. I'm so sorry. I'm going to see if I can make it darker. Gosh, it's just so hard for you to see. There we go. So, leadership, let's just say you're 1. Okay. Leadership ability. Success. Success is on the horizontal. The leadership ability is on the vertical. Okay. So just let that stick in your mind. Okay. I'm going to make this brighter again. Okay. And hopefully this will let me go back. Okay. To increase your level of effectiveness, you have a couple of choices. You could work very hard to increase your dedication to success and excellence, to work to becoming a 10. It's possible that you could make it to that level, though the law of diminishing returns says that your success will increase only to a certain point, after which it fails to increase in proportion to the amount of work you're putting into it. In other words, the effort it would take to increase those last 2 points might take more energy than it did to achieve the first 8. If you really killed yourself, you might increase your success by that 25%. But you have another option. Let's say that you work hard to increase your level of leadership. Over the course of time, you develop yourself as a leader, and eventually your leadership ability becomes, say, a 6. Visually, the results would look like the chart on the opposite page. By raising your leadership ability without increasing your success dedication at all, you increase your original effectiveness by 500%. So that means that's a good thing. So let me read that again. By raising your leadership ability, so that was the one that was on the vertical, without increasing your success dedication at all, meaning not having to kill yourself, you increase your original effectiveness by 500%. If you were to raise your leadership to an 8, where it is match your success dedication, you would increase your effectiveness by 700%. Leadership has a multiplying effect. I've seen its impact over and over again in all kinds of businesses and nonprofit organizations. And that's why I've taught leadership for more than 25 years. So again, John Maxwell. Okay. So now I'm going to let y'all read this. So this is a new, let's lower the brightness. So now leadership ability and the success dedication. So as you increase, remember he said increasing to a 7 for your leadership ability really has an impact on your success. Okay. Leadership ability is always the lid on personal and organizational effectiveness. If the leadership is strong, the lid is high. But if it's not, then the organization is limited. That's why in times of trouble, organizations naturally look for new leadership. When the country is experiencing hard times, it elects a new president. When a church is floundering, it searches for a new senior pastor. When a sports team keeps losing, it looks for a new head coach. When a company is losing money, it hires a new CEO. A few years ago, I met Don Stevenson, the chairman of Global Hospitality Resources of San Diego, California, an international hospitality advisory and consulting firm. Over lunch, I asked him about his organization. Today, he primarily does consulting. But back then, his company took over the management of hotels and resorts that were doing well financially. They oversaw many excellent facilities, such as La Costa in Southern California. To reach the highest level of effectiveness, I can't talk today. To reach the highest level of effectiveness, you have to raise the lid of leadership ability. Don said that whenever they came into an organization to take it over, they always started by doing two things. First, they trained all the staff to improve their level of service to the customers. And second, they fired the leader. When he told me that, I was at first surprised. You always fire him? I asked. Every time. That's right, every time. Don't you talk to the person first to check him out to see if he's a good leader? I said. No, he answered. If he would have been a good leader, the organization wouldn't be in a mess that it's in. And I thought to myself, of course, it's the law of the lid. To reach the highest level of effectiveness, you have to raise the lid, one way or another. The good news is that getting rid of the leader isn't the only way. Just as I teach in conferences that there is a lid, I'll also teach you that you can raise it. Okay, so that was chapter 1. So you could stop right here if you wanted to and watch the chapter 2 of me reading it another time. So just wanted to give you that option if you wanted to pause here and wait to watch chapter 2. Okay, so I'm moving forward. And just a reminder, this is a good time to remember that watching this video is very helpful when you're just riding in the car. So you don't have to watch it. Obviously, listening it in the car when you are doing the dishes, when you are folding clothes, when you are sometimes on the loo, if you know what I mean, as you're taking a shower, even. So, that's an opportunity for you as a leader is using your time effectively. Sometimes laying in the bed right before you go to bed, having an opportunity to just use your time wisely instead of looking at TV and doing things that, are not going to grow you as a person. So here we go. Chapter 2. How can I grow as a leader? Leadership develops daily, not in a day. Okay, that's the theme of this chapter. Becoming a leader is a lot like investing successfully in the stock market. If your hope is to make a fortune in a day, you're not going to be successful. What matters most is what you do day by day over the long haul. Okay, I'm going to pause right there. So I just know that we as Christians can definitely preach on that as far as being in the Word, and that we obviously are going to know the Word more if we're putting in the work day by day versus expecting to read the Bible in a whole sitting. We're not going to remember it. It's not going to be a part of us. Okay, so back to the book. My friend Tag Short maintains the secret of our success is found in our daily agenda. If you continually invest in your leadership development, letting your assets compound, the inevitable result is growth over time. When I teach leadership at conferences, people inevitably ask me whether leaders are born. I always answer, yes, of course they are. I've yet to meet one that came into the world any other way. We all laughed, and then I answered the real question, whether leadership is something a person either possesses or doesn't. Although it is true that some people are born with greater natural gifts than others, the ability to lead is really a collection of skills, nearly all of which can be learned and improved. But that process doesn't happen overnight. Leadership is complicated. It has many facets: respect, experience, emotional strength, people skills, discipline, vision, momentum, timing. The list goes on. And you can see many factors that come into play in leadership are intangible. That's why leaders require so much seasoning to be effective. It was around the time I turned 50 that I truly began to understand the many aspects of leadership with clarity. Here are the 4 phases of leadership growth. Whether you do or don't have natural ability for leadership, your development and progress will probably occur according to the following 4 phases. Phase 1: don't know what I don't know. So, again, repeat that. I don't know what I don't know. Most people fail to recognize the value of leadership. They believe that leadership is only for a few, for the people at the top of a corporate ladder. They have no idea of the opportunities they're passing up when they don't learn to lead. When they don't learn to lead. This point was driven home for me when a college president shared with me that only a handful of students signed up for a leadership course offered by the school. Why? Only a few thought of themselves as leaders. If they had known that the leadership influence and that in the course of each day, most individuals usually try to influence at least 4 other people, their desire might have been sparked to learn more about the subject. It's unfortunate because as long as a person doesn't know what he doesn't know, he doesn't grow. Phase 2. I know what I don't know. Usually, at some point in life, we are placed in a leadership position only to look around and discover that no one is following us. That's when we realize that we need to learn how to lead. And of course, that's when it's possible for the process to start. The English Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli wisely commented, to be gracious that you are ignorant of the facts is a great step to knowledge. So I'm going to repeat that. To be conscious that you are ignorant of the facts is a great step to knowledge, meaning don't be a know-it-all as a leader. Successful leaders are learners. Successful leaders are learners, and the learning process is ongoing, a result of self-discipline and perseverance. That's what happened to me when I took my first leadership position in 1969. I had captained sports team all my life and had been the student government president in college. So I already thought um, I was a leader. But when I tried to lead people in the real world, I found out the awful truth. That prompted me to start gathering resources and learning from them. I also had another idea. I wrote on the top 10 leaders in my field and offered them $100 for a half hour of their time so that I could ask them questions. That was quite a sum in 1969. For the next several years, my wife Margaret and I planned every vacation around where these people lived. If a great leader in Cleveland said yes to my request, then that year we vacationed in Cleveland so that I could meet him, and my idea really paid off. Those men shared insights with me that I could have learned no other way. Phase 3. I grow and know, and it starts to show. When you recognize your lack of skill and begin the daily discipline of personal growth and leadership, exciting things start to happen. A while back, I was teaching a group of people in Denver, and in the crowd, I noticed a really sharp 19-year-old named Brian. For a couple of days, I watched as he eagerly took notes. I talked to him a few times during breaks. When I got to the part of the seminar where I emphasized that leadership is a process, I asked Brian to stand up so that I could talk while everyone listened. I said, Brian, I've been watching you here, and I'm very impressed with how hungry you are to learn and glean and grow. I want to tell you a secret that will change your life. Everyone in the whole auditorium seemed to lean forward. I believe that in 20 years, you can be a great leader. I want to encourage you to make yourself a lifelong learner of leadership. Read books, listen to tapes regularly, and keep attending seminars. And whenever you come across a golden nugget of truth or significant quote, file it away for the future. It's not going to be easy, I said, but in 5 years, you'll see progress as your influence becomes greater. In 10 years, you'll develop a competence that makes your leadership highly effective. And in 20 years, when you're only 39 years old, if you've continued to learn and grow, others will likely ask you to teach them about leadership, and some will be amazed. They'll look at each other and say, "How did he become so suddenly wise? Brian, you are a great leader," but it won't happen in a day. Start paying the price now. What's true for Brian is also true for you. Start developing your leadership today, and someday you will experience the effects of this process. Phase 4. I simply go because of what I know. When you're in phase 3, you can be pretty effective as a leader, but you have to think about every move you make. However, when you get to phase 4, your ability to lead becomes almost automatic, and that's when the payoff is larger than life. But the only way to get there is to recognize the process and pay the price. To lead tomorrow, learn today. Leadership is developed daily, not in a day. That is reality. The good news is that your leadership ability is not static. No matter where you're starting from, you can get better. That's true even for people who've stood on the world stage of leadership. While most presidents of the United States reach their peak while in office, others continue to grow and become better leaders afterwards, such as former President Jimmy Carter. Some people question his ability to lead while in the White House, but in recent years, Carter's level of influence has continued to increase. His high integrity and dedication in serving people through Habitat through Humanity and other organizations have made his influence grow. People are now truly impressed with his life. Fighting your way. There's an old saying, champions don't become champions in the ring, they are merely recognized there. That's true. If you want to see where someone develops into a champion, look at his daily routine. So think of Michael Phelps. That's a perfect person because of how incredible he is. Just wanted to pause and tell you my own opinion. Former heavyweight champion Joe Frazier stated, "You can map out a fight plan or a life plan. When the action starts, you're down to your reflexes. That's where your road work shows. If you cheated on that in the dark of the morning, you're getting found out now under the bright lights." Boxing is a good analogy for leadership development because it's all about daily preparation. Even if a person has natural talent, he has to prepare and train to become successful. One of this country's greatest leaders was a fan of boxing, President Theodore Roosevelt. In fact, one of his most famous quotes uses a boxing analogy. "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out the strong man stumbled, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and becomes short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. So that is his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat." A boxer himself, Roosevelt was not only an effective leader, but he was the most flamboyant of all U.S. presidents, a man of action. TR, which was Roosevelt's nickname, was known for regular boxing and judo sessions, challenging horseback rides, and long, strenuous hikes. A French ambassador who visited Roosevelt used to tell about the time that he accompanied the president on a walk through the woods. When the two men came to the banks of a stream that was too deep to cross by foot, TR stripped off his clothes and expected the dignitary to do the same so that they could swim to the other side. Nothing was an obstacle to Roosevelt. His enthusiasm and stamina seemed boundless. As the vice presidential candidate in 1900, he gave 673 speeches and traveled 20,000 miles while campaigning for President McKinley, which, by the way, President McKinley is an incredible Christian. And when I got to go to Washington, D.C. recently, he has the sweetest, as he was like literally like on his deathbed. Near to Thee was the hymn that he sang. So I just thought that was kind of cool that Theodore Roosevelt was uh, the, vice presidential candidate campaigning for President McKinley. I thought that was really cool. And years after Theodore Roosevelt's presidency, while preparing to deliver a speech in Milwaukee, Roosevelt was shot in the chest by a would-be assassin. With a broken rib and a bullet in his chest, Roosevelt insisting on delivering his 1-hour speech before allowing himself to be taken to the hospital. So leadership at all cost. Roosevelt started slow. All of the leaders this nation has ever had, Roosevelt was one of the toughest, both physically and mentally. But he didn't start that way. America's cowboy president was born in Manhattan to a prominent, wealthy family. As a child, he was puny and very sickly. He had debilitating asthma, possessed very poor eyesight, and was painfully thin. His parents weren't sure he would survive. While he was 12, young Roosevelt's father told him, "You have the mind, but not the body. And without the help of the body, the mind cannot go as far as it should. You must make the body." And make it he did. TR began spending every day building his body as well as his mind, and he did that for the rest of his life. He worked out with weights, hiked, ice skated, hunted, rode horseback, and boxed. By the time TR graduated from Harvard, he was ready to tackle the world of politics. No overnight success. Roosevelt didn't become a great leader overnight either. His road to presidency was one of slow, continual growth. As he served in various positions ranging from New York City Police Commissioner to President of the United States, he kept learning and growing. He improved himself, and in time, he became a strong leader. Roosevelt's list of accomplishments is remarkable. Under his leadership, the United States emerged as a world power. He helped develop a first-class navy. He saw that the Panama Canal was built. He negotiated peace between Russia and Japan, winning a Nobel Peace Prize in the process. And when people questioned TR's leadership, since he had become president when McKinley was assassinated, he campaigned and was reelected by the largest majority of any president up to his time. Ever the man of action, when Roosevelt completed his term as president in 1909, he immediately traveled to Africa, where he led a scientific expedition sponsored by the Smithsonian Institute. On January 6, 1990, at his home in New York, Theodore Roosevelt died in his sleep. Then Vice President Marshall said, "Death had to take him sleeping, for if Roosevelt had been awake, there would have been a fight." When they removed him from his bed, they found a book under his pillow. Up to the very last, TR was still striving to learn and improve himself. If you want to be a leader, the good news is you can do it. Everyone has the potential, but it isn't accomplished overnight. It requires perseverance, and you absolutely cannot ignore that becoming a leader is a process. Leadership doesn't develop in a day, it takes a lifetime. So that is the end. And I just want to tell each of you as leaders that I think are amazing, that I just, like God brought to me as I read those 2 chapters about, that the Lord just asked us, "Here I am, send me, Lord." And again, just a reminder that you are a leader of your health first, you're a leader of your family second, you're a co-leader with your spouse if you're married, and to not take that for granted. So like that is a great place to start. And then just the gifts that God has given you, use them. You're going to look different as a leader than me, or you're going to look different than Heather. You're going to look different than Lois. You're going to look different than so many leaders, but there's only you. And you've got to just examine what are the leadership qualities that you possess that God has given you just naturally. And I would love to hear from each one of you give me just one nugget of something that just like stood out to you, and just send me back in a comment as I'm sending this on instant messenger. Send me one nugget of something that you feel like, stuck with you. Second thing I want you to do is I want you to also tell me one gift that you possess that you think is just kind of like an asset that God has given you, and send that back to me as well. I'm going to be sending each of you a little love love me gift in the mail or in person if I see you at church. That just shows you just how grateful I am for each and every one of you. And again, we have to connect. Each of us have to connect, so that you know just how important it is to stay plugged in for yourself, for your health. Um, Again, I think of many of you that have children and they are looking to you. So whether you realize that you are a leader, and I can't even tell you the difference of Cecilia and just her noticing, just naturally her, wanting to follow me and wanting to try things that I'm eating and taking care of myself. She's learning just by being around me. So y'all have a great day, and I will be doing this week another post on chapters 3 and 4. So, y'all, I'm so excited and proud of you, and don't ever give up on your health, and don't ever give up on learning and growing. Y'all have a great day. Bye.